Welcome into the Primary Residential Mortgage Armchair Quarterback. I'm Tony Lombardi here with Forrester and Dean Johnson. It's week 5 now in the NFL, and the Ravens are coming off a big win Sunday night in Heinz Field, 26-14 to take a tie with the Cincinnati Bengals for first place in the AFC North. Thanks to the Atlanta Falcons, guys, they blew a chance. The Ravens had a chance to take sole possession of the AFC
They
North.
had them on the ropes, Tony. They had them on the ropes, had their foot on their neck, and played the prevent and let them march right down the field.
And those guys like A.J. Green, one of these days the Ravens will have one of those guys. They just make those big plays in big situations.
We got one right now, John Brown. Now.
Right.
So far, we have one.
Who outperformed Antonio Brown.
He did.
Doubled him up.
And so did our quarterback. Outperformed their quarterback. I'm wearing black today, by the way.
I was going to say, are you dressed for
Johnny Cash?
The Johnny Cash of the show?
No,
are you dressed for a funeral?
I am, actually.
Okay.
Who
Yeah,
died?
we're burying the Steelers' playoff chances. I wore that just for that joke.
So you
now
think-
let me go change. I'll be right back.
You think this is the team that the Steelers? This is who they are? And
They're terrible. Steelers are terrible.
I don't think they're
won't-
terrible. We argued about this before we were on.
How many games will they win?
Well,
To me, terrible is if you win 6 or 7 games.
Nah, they're going to win 7 or 8 games.
They're not winning 8. 8 would be 8, 7, and 1. That'd be over 500. They can't be over 500.
Okay.
They're not winning.
With
They might.
Chinese lunch, maybe?
You're on.
You already owe me one.
I know,
The
but you're-
so the camera knows. You already owe
They
me one
won't
Chinese
win
lunch
8
that
games.
you haven't paid up on yet.
Can't win 8 games.
Okay.
Can't possibly win 8 games. Not with that defense.
Okay.
No chance.
But that aside, it was a big win for the Ravens. This is the kind of game that the Ravens would go into Heinz Field, lose this game, lose a close game, come back home or go on the road again against the Cleveland Browns, be 2-2. Now they made a statement, I think, and they took the game 3-1. You got to love what they're doing in the second half in games defensively, making these adjustments. Not a touchdown scored against the Ravens
The
in 4
rivalry's
games.
not the same as it used to be.
No, not
it's
even
not
close.
as tough. The league's changing, but we did beat them up the second half. Forget about the score or the yards. We beat them up all over the field. We came out of the game, and I'm pumped. We came out of the game uninjured. Nobody with anything, lingering. But we beat them up. There's no other way to describe it.
I think the schedule was a huge benefit for the Ravens, and I don't mean that to sound like the league did us a favor or anything like that. I think playing them in September in Pittsburgh is an enormous advantage.
65 and beautiful last night.
It was
Beautiful
just perfect, and it helped everything about the game. You don't have to go there in December when it's freezing cold, the field's hard, the game really, really matters. You're worried about the referees. You know the history of can't stop them late in the game. We didn't have to worry about any of that. Tucker gets a benefit of kicking in very night. Even Boswell last night, the kicks he hit were all good, right? The 2 field goals he hit. It's just the conditions were so much better for the Ravens last night, and it was a huge benefit for them to go in there in September. And that, again, that's not the reason why they won, but there were so many moving parts last night that were a benefit for the Ravens. And that was a big one, I thought.
47 total yards in the second half. Now, you look at this game, and you look at the way the Steelers got back in, it tied it up. What were they doing? Throwing the ball down the middle of the field to tight ends. It was a problem the Ravens had against that team last year, and you're thinking, here we go again. Credit to Wink to make the adjustments at halftime, and they took the tight ends didn't catch one ball in the second half. Antonio Brown had 1 catch for 5 yards, 47 total yards.
Like we talked about.
3 and outs, and it was just
Last
really well
week
done.
we all debated whether or not Marlon Humphrey would mark, Antonio Brown all over the field, and he did. And Antonio Brown had 1 great catch in the end zone for a touchdown, which a great player made a great play and a great throw. But other than that, Marlon Humphrey, phenomenal job. It wiped them out a little bit. And to your point, then we made the adjustments in the middle of the field. It was great. The sky's the limit. Jimmy Smith's coming back.
They really miss Bell. I mean, that's like the dumb statement of the day, right? But I mean, it's unbelievable how much their offense has changed without him. And to that degree, Wink, I think, really understood by the end of the first half. He kind of understood exactly what they were going to do, which is same thing they've tried to do in the past: use the tight ends a lot, unlock the deep play if they could to Brown. But in the past, they always had Bell there to. You had to worry about him. He was going to run for 8 yards. He could come out of the backfield and catch the ball. Without him, everybody up there for those couple of weeks talking about how this Connor kid's pretty good. We might not miss Bell. They're insane. That they cannot
Bell's ability
win.
to come out of the backfield and catch the ball.
They can't win without
takes
him.
the linebacker out of the middle of the field all day.
No doubt. They can't win without him. They're not beating anybody with that kid at running back, and with the basic offensive formula of we're going to throw it 9 times out of 10. They can't beat anybody with that formula, except for some of the lesser teams. But the Ravens did a great job. And that's 4 weeks in a row now. They haven't allowed a point in the second half. They've done an unbelievable job. Or touchdown, I guess it might be. They've done
9 points total.
Right,
in
no
4 halves.
touchdowns. They've done an unbelievable job of kind of seizing the game at the right moment. I mean, forget the first game of the year because they were 100-0 ahead right away. But the other wins, the 2 most recent ones, they've done a great job of seizing the game when the moment called for it.
And think back to the last couple of years. The biggest problem they had in the fourth quarter was getting off the field defensively.
Right.
And now they're really getting it done. And that was a big goal for this team going into the 2018 season, to be able to get off the field in the fourth quarter. Because as bad as it was last year, they still could have made the playoffs if they could get off the field.
They
in the
were
fourth
close.
quarter.
Well, it was 20-14 last night, and there was 10 minutes left in the game, and you you sort of knew, right? You're like, okay,
They're
here we
gonna
go.
get the ball,
Here
they're
we
gonna
go.
march
Right.
down.
This is a sort of a defining 10 minutes maybe of the season, potentially. Because these kind of games, when all the dust settles at the end of the year and the Ravens are 10-6 and the Bengals are 10-6 or 11-5 or whatever, this could be the one, right? This could be the division game that makes us 5-1 or whatever. The whole thing came into that 10 minutes of, in the past, they've gone down the field and scored to make it 21-20. We've come right back down and kicked the field goal to make it 23-21. They get the ball back with 2.5 minutes to go, and you all know what happens. Boom, 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 penalty, ball down in the middle, field goal, end of the game. This was a really significant mental win, I think, for the Ravens.
And to that point, the mental aspect of the game, I think that this team is really embracing this season in a way that they seem to have control of where they want to go. In other words, John last night after the game, he talked about, okay, it's one game, we're building. And you get the feeling that this team is very workmanlike. They're not going to get too excited about a loss or too excited about a win, and it's on to Cleveland.
I feel that way. I mean, again, nobody hurt last night. We're coming out of this thing relatively healthy. We pick up 2 players coming back. We got Jimmy Smith coming back for this game, and we still haven't had Hayden Hurst yet, who probably will make his debut next week.
Right.
Sitting 3-1, getting those 2 guys coming back, we're in a good position right now.
Let's talk about that. Hayden Hurst comes back. Mark Andrews is playing well. Max Williams may have had his best game as a Raven.
11 receivers caught balls last night.
Right.
11 different receivers.
The distribution's been great. But let's talk about the tight ends. Who gets bumped for Hayden Hurst?
I don't know.
Who loses playing time?
I think he'll just get worked in the obvious passing downs because, obviously we haven't seen him yet. You've seen him in training camp. Mm-hmm. He's got a speed element that Max Williams and Mark Andrews don't have.
Deceptive speed element, too.
Right, that other guys don't have. So I think they'll have packages they'll work him in. I don't think he'll be in the base offense right now. I think they're going to kind of roll with what they've got. But obvious passing downs, he's going to be part of it.
They'll have a little bit of a quandary on their hands, right? Getting the day of game lineup in, having to now sit 2 guys that have played so far. Like that'll be a challenge, and it always the stories are legendary, not just in Baltimore but all over the league, of the coordinators all sitting around and fighting for their guys. Like, you can't sit him out. He's valuable to me. And, of course, the other coordinator then says, well, yeah, but this guy's way more valuable to me than he's valuable to you. And a lot of times it does come down to special teams. A lot of times Rosberg sits in the room and really makes sort of the final argument for, hey, we need this is the guy we need to keep. Keep active today because of the role he plays on special teams. And then, of course, John's history.
Wouldn't we have
is
killed to
special
have had
teams.
this argument last year?
Oh, sure.
A depth argument. That
No doubt. But John's history is special teams, right? And he gets the value of that. Whereas a guy that's sort of an offensive guy might say, just send somebody out there to go run, chase after the guy that gets the punt. Who cares? John is much more, I think, much more in tune with that. So it'll be interesting to see who they sit, because they got to sit 2 guys now that haven't sat before.
We all agreed last week that Marty Morningway had a good game against the Broncos. What are your thoughts about last night?
Another good one. I thought he again, there was a constant mix-up of throw, pass. I'm not a huge fan of trotting Jackson out there, but I do get it. I think every time you put him out there, you are diminishing the impact that Flacco could have. That's my opinion. That said, I get it. Like, you have this particular piece that the other team, I mean, they had to burn a timeout last night right away.
That would have been a big play.
Yeah,
that
right.
would have been a
right.
big play.
And but they had to burn a timeout because they weren't ready for him to run out on the field. So I get it. And I think I think Marty's just done a much better job of the balance between the run and the throw. We all get nervous because we know he loves to abandon the run, sort of like what he did in the Bengals game. But it's kind of easy to coordinate it when Joe is playing like this and the receivers are catching the balls.
Well, and you left one part out. I think the offensive line looks really, really comfortable, partially because of Marty's game planning. They kind of understand the tempo of it now. They know the other team's going to be on their heels a little bit, not knowing what's coming. And the offensive line, very quietly, has had a great first 4 games. A great first 4 games.
We're not a great running team. So I don't, it's not like we're going to churn out 150 yards a game on the ground, but we're just good enough to keep you thinking about it. We're not great.
Well, they were better with Buck Allen. I mean, this is something to be talked about. The second half, they were better running the ball with Buck Allen as the primary ball carrier than they were in the first half with Alex Collins, who, is usually your feature back.
Right.
Buck is just one of these guys that seems to come up with a clutch play. He gets things done. He's not real pretty, not flashy.
Collinsworth talked about him last night a lot.
What about the 11-yard run at the end of the game? He just kept driving the pile.
Well, at
How's
first,
Collinsworth do the games, by the way, with the Steelers helmet on?
he wasn't as bad last night.
But if they shot up there and they gave you a panoramic view of the press box, there's Michaels, the spotter, and then Collinsworth actually has the helmet on while he's doing the games. There's no question about it.
He wasn't as bad last night.
Well, he couldn't be because they were getting their ass kicked the whole game.
But think about this, too. Those two guys, you could just feel the emotion in their voices when the Steelers do something well, and if the Ravens do something well. I know I'm a Ravens fan and all that, but it seems to be so a matter of fact when the Ravens do it.
It's funny, I make this because I have this debate with friends of mine who are always beating up the announcers about favoritism, right? They're really, really tough on Collinsworth. And I say to them all the time, you have to understand something. They get drilled into them in all of their meetings leading up to the game. They get drilled into them. Keep the viewers tuned in. Don't ever say the game's over. Don't ever say this is too much to come back from. Right. Don't ever say, well, this doesn't look good for the Ravens. Like, you've got to keep people tuned in. And you've got to keep on saying, well, I know it's 28-10, but hey, this Roethlisberger guy and Brown, these two guys, they could put points up in a hurry. People hear that and they go, there they go, slamming the Ravens again. Their job is to keep the game interesting.
Good points.
For sure. But Collinsworth, there's no doubt he wears the Steelers helmet. In his hotel room, when he's getting ready to shower, he's got the helmet on. There is no question about it.
I want to get back to Marty for a second because I think he's done a great job as well.
I can't believe we're saying that.
Right.
It sounds so
2 weeks
weird
in a
to say
row.
that.
We're
3-1.
Right.
But look at the formations, the multitude of looks that they give a defense.
The trick play with Max Williams.
Right.
How about the play where they gave the ball to Moore?
Almost like as a shallow fullback right behind center and goes out for the pass and gets a big first down.
What about the 4th and 1 play where they shoveled it? That's a play out of the Steelers playbook where they shoveled it in there to Moore and he ran it and darted in and got the first down.
Right.
Like that. We've never seen that play in the past. You know what we would do? We would toss it out there to Collins and the whole stadium would know we were going on the right.
3-yard loss.
Right, no doubt. That was it's funny you talked about like this, the multiple looks. I said to someone last night, I've never seen us with that play. I've never, ever, Ravens ever in the history of the team, never seen that particular play where they shovel the ball forward and Moore catches it and dives in for the first down. Never seen it happen before.
Well, the thing that you want to do with your formations is not dictate what you're going to run. Back in the day, they would dictate a run or a pass based upon their personnel packages or their formation. They're not doing it now, and you'll hear it all the time from coaches. If you can make the opponent think a little bit more, slow them down, you open up an opportunity.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy with Marty. I don't know how anybody can't be. And we got more weapons coming back. 3-1. Keeping the other teams off balance. I mean, it's the sky's the limit again.
I'm going to check on flights to Atlanta for that week of the Super Bowl, just to see. Is that bad? Is that bad karma?
Drew's morning. They should have a trip.
Let me just see though, real quick, if we can get some flights to Atlanta. It's better than losing. It's better than what we saw in the baseball season for the last 5 months. That's for sure.
They're not losing and they're healthy. We're healthy and getting talent coming back.
And look, this is important that Pittsburgh is on a downturn. Right? We don't have to necessarily worry. We already went in there and beat them, but we don't have to worry about it going through them. It's good to have this. There's this where lungs are kind of filled with air in September. We're not panicking, and we're not nervous, and we're not looking at the schedule and going, well, hell, we still know we got to go in there in December and play those knuckleheads. This is setting up to be a really, really interesting season. If that's wood, knock on wood. We got
armchairs back.
Armchair has been added to the set.
Not armchairless.
We are. This is setting up to be an interesting season if we stay healthy.
Got a 3-game road trip right now.
Yeah.
3-game road trip.
I'm a little worried about the Cleveland game. We'll talk about that in a minute.
But another thing I really like that they're doing is they're getting some of these young guys involved. Tim White makes a big catch last night. You got DeLance Turner is on the field. I know that had a lot to do with Alec Collins fumbling a ball on the 1-yard line, but the fact that they're taking this leap of faith with some of these younger guys is somewhat different than what they've done in the past.
Chris Moore had a big play.
Yeah.
Buck got a lot of carries in the second half. Not that he's a young guy. DeLance Turner, Tim White. Tim White had a great game in special teams, by the way. I mean, they were hit a couple of high punts where guys were surrounding him doing their normal, deke moves, and he caught everything. So I like it. It's helpful to know you've got some depth. We haven't had these arguments in the last few years.
Right, you would never see a Tim White or a Chris Moore on the field in those key situations. Speaking of key situations, Michael Crabtree, it's a daily thing or a weekly thing. He's dropping a big pass.
I think he's going to right the ship on that, and then we'll be even more dangerous because Brown had a great game. Snead, haven't mentioned his name yet.
Snead had a couple really nice catches.
It's exactly what they said we were going to get from him, and we were getting from him. That center of the field, out of the slot.
Right, and what's interesting about the receivers, and this is sort of an early observation, and the other team tries too. So when I say what I'm about to say, we got to give a little bit of credit to the other guys. These guys don't get a lot of separation, except maybe for Brown. Brown does have a tendency to get a step or two on his guy.
Brown's touchdown, he ran by 2 guys.
Snead catches it in traffic. Crabtree is a little bit of Bolden light, right? He catches it in traffic, and we can insert the line here about the one he dropped when he was wide open. But they're not getting a lot of separation, and Joe's getting it to them in the right spot, and they're making catches.
Who has been getting separation is Mark Andrews, strangely enough. Despite not being fast, he's had those routes he's running in the middle of the field. He's been gaining separation, catching the ball in stride.
Boy, if Joe could have just got Crabtree.
I was just going to say, speaking of
21-0
separation.
right away. Just a second earlier, and if Joe could have seen it just a second earlier, it was going to be 21-0, 10 minutes into the game.
That would have been beautiful.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
All right, let's take a quick break here on the primary residential mortgage armchair quarterback. I'm Tony Lombardi.
Okay. I can say it.
Forrester,
okay. Let
Dean Johnson.
You couldn't do it. It's okay.
We'll be right back in 90 seconds.
Find nearest bakery.
Showing nearby bakeries.
Find party supply store near here.
The 2018 Corolla, loaded with the latest tech and Toyota Safety Sense standard.
I got it all.
Where's my mom?
She wasn't on the list.
Right now, get $1,000 customer cash, or qualified buyers get 0% APR financing for 60 months on a stylish new 2018 Corolla. Toyota, let's go places.
Welcome back to the primary residential mortgage armchair quarterback show. See, I work there, so it flows a little.
Do you see
more
how easy
easily.
that is?
He's pretty good. He's a professional.
I'm Dean Johnson with Drew Forrester and Tony Lombardi. We're back with more. What do we got, Tony?
We're going to talk about odds and ends around the league. Let's focus in on that hit. Great play by Tony Jefferson, by the way. The strip.
Awesome.
Awesome play. Vance McDonald made a big play the week before on Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Bucks. So he gets stripped. It looks like Jefferson's going in for a touchdown.
What about this hit, though?
But the hit by C.J. Mosley on McDonald.
You know Conti sent him a fruit basket and said, dude, I really appreciate you doing that.
At least a fruit basket.
A la the Ray Lewis hit on Denver years ago on the Chris McAllister return. Same thing.
Right.
Knocked his cleats off.
Lit him up, but
No doubt.
no penalty. But then back it up to Baker Mayfield in Oakland, where they lose 45-42.
This is awful.
And
This is terrible.
they call a roughing the pass. This is, I think, on Cleveland's second possession. They complete a pass, add 15 more to it. The guy basically chest bumps
Pulls
Baker
up,
Mayfield.
tries to hold on to him. I remember last week, McCoy from Tampa was mic'd up, and we talked a little about this.
Right.
When he went to Ben, he's like, hold up, Ben, hold up, sorry, Ben. And then grabs him and gets called for it. And this was even worse,
They
oddly enough.
stole that game from Cleveland. That is horrendous what happened to Cleveland at the end of the game with that spot. And that first down that they turned around and said, well, it's not a first down. And then, I get it. The Browns have got to stop them, and they couldn't. But the game was over. It's like the Clay Matthews thing, right? The hit on Cousins in that opening game
Right.
where the game is over if they don't call that play. And if they don't change that call in Cleveland, in Oakland with Cleveland, there's no way that Cleveland loses. So that was terrible. I mean, it's hard to win in the league, really hard to win on the road. And when you steal these games from these teams,
and we said it,
terrible.
when we get into December, that's what this whole thing, this whole new pattern, it bothers me, because when we get into December and the games are more meaningful, it's going to be magnified 100%. You're going to see games being, outcomes of entire division races, and based on these calls. I mean, because the one in Cleveland was a joke. We were just watching it during the break. It's a joke.
Well, I think what it also invites is flopping. Because
Ben flopped
Ben's
last
done it.
week. Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster did it against the Ravens. He flopped. He hardly got touched. He was rolling around on the ground like he was hurt.
Yep.
So it's going to invite a lot of that. Okay, let's talk about a segment we featured last week. We're featuring throughout the season. Come on, man.
So
Come on, man.
So my come on, man is Drew Forrester inspired. You ready?
Oh,
you don't even know where I'm going with
but
this.
I like the fact that I'm getting credit for it. I hope.
I'm gonna go. Drew,
hold back.
Drew, I'm gonna go a little off topic here.
Okay.
Come on, man, to the U.S. Ryder Cup team.
Come
on, man.
Yeah.
You got up at 2 a.m. every night to watch them. The coaches laid an egg. The team, you are more down on the coaches.
Except Justin Thomas. Everybody else laid an egg.
I mean, come on, man. Tiger didn't win a match. Phil looked overmatched to me. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, make it close. You're up 3-1 after the first session, and then to get blown out. Come on, man.
Come on, man. I'm with you. I'll give you my come on, man. The Dolphins had they might have been a paper tiger, but the Dolphins are 3-0, right? If you can start 4-0 or 5-0, you almost then have to miss the playoffs by accident, right? If you look at the stats in the history of the league,
Correct.
if you start 4-0, I know Minnesota a couple years ago I think started 5-0, didn't make it. But if you look at the trend in the history and the stats of the league, if you can start 4-0, you've got a great chance to make the playoffs. The Dolphins went up there, and it's not like you're going up there in December. This is the same thing that I talked about with the Ravens in Pittsburgh. If you're going to go to New England and play, when do you want to go play?
It was 60 and sunny. It was beautiful.
Right. And this was perfect for Miami. This was
Perfect
like
for the
Miami
fish.
North,
Absolutely.
right? This is perfect. We're going to go up there to New England. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's almost going to feel like Miami, except there are going to be fans in the stands. And we're going to go up there and we're going to be accountable. They lost 38-7. It was 38-0. I don't know how they scored, but that's what you have to offer. Really?
Come
30.
on, man.
Yeah,
Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Drew.
Yeah, come on, man. 30, and I didn't bet the game. Actually, I took New England, but how do you do that? How do you go up there? And I get it, New England's New England, and they're at home, but how do you go up there and get hammered like that? Come on.
The Dolphins fans were saying, same here,
No, I mean,
same you know what.
right? No doubt.
Different years.
3-0.
I'm not a believer in that team.
Who?
The Dolphins.
Oh, no.
How could you ever be? Tannehill?
Yeah, no. Not after that, particularly. Hey, if they go up there and lose 24-21 or 27-23 and Brady throws a late touchdown to whatever, I don't even know who's on the team anymore. If he throws a late score and they win, yeah, okay. But to go up there and get clobbered like that,
Right,
38-7.
Now they even think themselves as frauds.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Right.
All right, my come on, man. 13 consecutive times in a red zone, Ravens put it in the end zone. Going for number 14. After Max Williams
The
catches
2-yard line,
pass,
Tony. The
down to
2-yard
2 yard.
line.
First and goal at the 2. What did the Ravens do? Up 14-3, I think, at the
Yeah,
time.
it was about ready to be over.
14-3. Handed Alex Collins, who's got a history of fumbling the football, and he fumbles it again. Breaks the string. Come on, man.
Yeah. That was kind of a cool little stat, right? That they had gone in the red zone 13 straight times and scored. That was a neat
touchdown.
stat. Yeah, that was,
Even if they don't score a
it's
touchdown,
hard.
I'm fine with the
Right.
touchdown streak being broken. But,
Right.
I mean, 17-3 feels a lot better than giving them the ball back. They went down and made it 14-10.
14-3. How do you think that John's going to handle him going forward?
Well, I don't know. He sat out 3 series, I think, before he came back in the second half.
I think he gets one. I'll answer this. I think he gets one more shot. If he coughs it up again, and you'll see Buck Allen taking over the majority of the carries.
Do you think he gets the ball inside the 5-yard line anymore?
Sure, I do.
You?
I think he's gonna. I think they had a Stern talking to, and he gets one more chance. Not that he's off the team, but he won't feature as prominent.
So I'm gonna disagree a little bit with that stance. Not with you per se. I do like disagreeing with you, but not.
You
on
love
this,
it.
Not on this one. The other guys are on scholarship too, right? If that's us and Mosley knocks the ball out of Connor's hand, we're talking about how much of a baller Mosley is, how great of a player he is. And I tell you, he's got a nose for the ball, and that's why Suggs is going to the Hall of Fame. And when we do it, our guy sucks. The other guys are trying too. Like, they're trying to make a play. I get it. You can't fumble on the 2. You can't fumble on the 30 either. You can't give the ball away. In the NFL, we all know the big stat is
He was already tackled.
turnover.
That was a bad. I mean, he
Well,
was
I
already
don't know why
tackled.
he didn't keep going. He had plenty of room to keep going left. I'm not a running back. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. But if he would have just kept going wide, I think he would have been okay. But he tried to cut it in, and that's when the guy knocked the ball out of his hand. But the other team is trying. That's what I would say to John, because you're right. John might eventually just say, okay, he can't get the ball in a critical situation anymore. But the other guys are trying too. They're trying to make a play.
Well, Buck got the ball a lot more. Let's not forget,
doubt.
Buck was in there a lot more than
No
he
doubt.
normally is in the second half of that game.
No doubt. And in fact, the first play when they brought Collins back in, I'm like, oh, good. They brought Collins back in. And Joe faked the pitch to him and then gave it to Buck Allen. And, Collins is kind of standing there
When
like,
they were trying
well,
to
at
kill
least I'm
that
back
game
in
off,
the game.
Tony, you said it. Who got the ball? Buck got
Right.
that 11-yard gain.
Right.
He did.
Yeah, no doubt.
But there was a play in the second half where DeLance Turner got the ball. I think he hit like a 5-yard
times.
run. And I thought it was Alex Collins at first because of the hair. I said, whoa, that's at 47. So, again, we were saying earlier in the show that John's giving these young guys, a chance to make a play. And so he took the field and did okay.
I
His
want
2
to get
chances.
that. I want to get Adam Duritz from the Counting Crows used to have that hair. It wasn't real. It was
Well, you said you've already
I
found
wanna-
a makeup person for the
I
next
wanna
show. We'll
get
work
that.
on those.
I want to get that hair. So you might have to go to New York to get it, but I want to get that hair, the dreadlocks, for me. Like Adam Duritz used
You
to
look
have.
good. There's no any pro golfers with dreads, true?
No, I don't think so. But I would like to try it just to see how it looks. Might be Christmas. I might have to give myself that for Christmas.
You could probably rock that look.
Expensive. I think it's expensive.
Okay, let's move on to your lead pipe reverse locks. Let's talk about last week's.
Okay, so last week we took Seattle giving 3 to Arizona.
Push.
That wound up being a push.
Okay.
Gave the Titans 4 in Nashville. That was a loss because Philly kicked the field goal in overtime. Tennessee scored a touchdown. And then the other one was New Orleans.
I thought that Tennessee was a dog.
They were, but we took all the road favorites.
Okay.
And
okay.
then the Saints won in New York, which made it 1-1 and
So
1.
no blood, Drew.
So
1-1
nothing.
and 1.
Yeah, I mean, the one that's of all the ones that are surprising to me would be the Seattle-Arizona game because I didn't think there was any way Arizona could score 17 points. I thought it would be 20-10 or 20-6. So again, understanding how the whole thing works, the math of this works is I'm giving you picks. I don't even really know how it works anymore, but because I'm trying to figure out a way so that I can be right no matter what happens.
Well, if you confuse us enough, maybe you can
That's the
claim
whole
to be
thing.
right.
But
So
problem
who are
is-
your 3
But
games?
the problem is when you go to cash that ticket with your friend, you can't buffalo him because he's got the thing written down. He knows.
Well, if
So-
you could, that would be good.
Right, yeah, no doubt. So I love, and I'm doing this off my top of my head. I can look at my phone, but I think I've got it down. I love Buffalo to beat the Titans straight up this week.
You and like 5 other people that all live in Buffalo.
I love Buffalo to beat them straight up. Buffalo's going to get a win. I don't even know what the number will be. The number will be Tennessee plus 1.5 probably. I mean minus 1.5, maybe 2.
Bold to
But
bet on Buffalo. Okay, go ahead.
Buffalo's going to win that game outright. Detroit's going to beat Green Bay outright in Detroit. Something's wrong with Green Bay. I don't know. Maybe they just don't have the weapons that they need for
They
Rodgers.
won yesterday.
But I think they only scored 1 touchdown. I think they only scored 1 touchdown and kicked a bunch of field goals against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense, despite what we saw here, Buffalo's defense is pretty good. This was a little bit of an anomaly.
Okay.
Their defense is pretty good. And I really like Atlanta to go to Pittsburgh and win.
Well, I don't think
And-
that's the least.
And here's why.
That's not as big.
So Atlanta's a 3.5 point dog.
Love it.
Buffalo is a 3.5-point dog.
Okay, so definitely take that.
And who was the other
And
one?
Detroit and Green Bay.
Detroit, Green Bay. Green Bay, Detroit's a 1-point dog.
Okay, so we're taking. So I like all of the. I love Atlanta going to Pittsburgh for the same reason I like the Ravens. Not exactly the same, but I mean the same concept. Warm, nice weather. Don't have to go up there and freeze your rear end off.
Atlanta,
They're
Pittsburgh
indoor-
could be 60 points again, just like Atlanta.
I
Cincinnati.
love it. I love Atlanta next week.
Okay.
So I'll take the Falcons in Pittsburgh. I'll take Detroit at home against Green Bay, and I'll take Buffalo at home against the
Three dogs.
the Titans.
Okay, well you're 1-1-1, Drew. So we're keeping
Okay,
track.
We're good. We're good. Don't blame me. Blame the Cardinals and the freaking Seahawks. Not my fault. Seahawks should have won that game 20-6. Come on, man. That should have been my come on, man.
Should have been. So
No doubt.
Okay, we'll check back in week 6. See how Drew does with his
And
lead
remember me at Christmas
pipe
time.
locks.
Just remember me with a little card.
I'll remember you. I'm 1-1-1.
Right. You're down 10%. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to focus in on bold predictions. Don't go away.
Hey, Justin Tucker, you just bought some Royal Farms world famous chicken. What are you gonna do now? Got some chicken in my hand, gonna eat it, understand? It's crispy, golden brown, moist and tender going down.
Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken legs, chicken thighs, don't forget the western fries. Don't you wish you had some too?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Royal Farms.
Royal what?
Royal Farms, world famous.
Chicken that's real, real what?
Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Welcome back to the Primary Residential Mortgage Armchair Quarterback. I'm Tony Lombardi, here with Drew Forrester and Dean Johnson. It's now time for our bold predictions segment. So we'll start off with Dean. Dean, what have you got for us this week?
So let me start by saying I feel really good about what I did last week. I
Recap
said John
it.
Brown was going to outperform Antonio Brown, and he did.
Check.
Doubled him up. I feel good about that one, and I even told my wife and kids about that at halftime, and they looked at me like I was crazy, but it did hold true. So this week, let me start by saying I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan. I think it stinks for Ravens fans that they drafted somebody that I think is going to be a thorn in our side for years to come. Not only do I think he's really talented, I think he's the kind of guy that's going to enjoy getting under Ravens fans' skin, like a quarterback version of Hines Ward that you can't hit, which won't be something we'll enjoy. But with that said, I think he comes in. We get Jimmy Smith back. We're healthy on defense. I think he hasn't seen anything like this yet. I think we hold Baker Mayfield under 200 yards, maybe under 150 yards passing. Wow. And, I think we go up there. Drew, I disagree with you about this game. I think we go up there and we handle them pretty easily. I think we smack them around, and I think it's a little bit of a, check, a gut check for them. They're scoring a lot of points. I think Baker Mayfield comes right back down to earth for this week and has to reevaluate things. Under 200 yards passing.
Okay. So I have two bold predictions. The game will go down in the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
The game will be in the balance, so you and I are going to definitely disagree. Because
That could be another Chinese lunch.
I know we got to be careful. You and I are. We're going to.
Our sodium intake.
Our doctors are going to say, "What's wrong with you two
Tony
guys?"
hasn't been to our favorite restaurant,
right.
so we'll have to take it.
The game will go down in the last 5 minutes. It'll be in the balance with 5 minutes to go. I don't think the Ravens are going to lose, but I think this is a challenge. I think Cleveland's got a good defense. It's funny because they just gave up a
45
gazillion
points.
Right, Oakland. But Cleveland's defense is, and again, home and away, right? It's always different. They played really good the first week against Pittsburgh defensively, and they played really good in New Orleans, really well, it should be. Their defense until the other day had definitely showed up. I think it's going down the last 5 minutes. And I think Lamar Jackson will score a touchdown in the game.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really
I think
good
Lamar
one.
Jackson will score a touchdown. They're going to keep using him, and he'll be in. They'll be on the 7-yard line, and they'll throw him in there, and he'll option and keep it and wishbone or whatever they do with him.
Right.
And he'll score a touchdown.
I'll back you up on that because of something we talked about last week.
You got to disagree with me.
We didn't talk.
You can't agree.
Lamar, I love when they use Lamar on first down.
Okay.
When they use him on first down and they spread it out and do something exotic. They didn't call that timeout. He was going to do something there, and he gained 8 yards on first down in the red zone once. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for him to throw the ball one time.
You can't do that.
I don't think you're going to see. I don't think you're going to see that.
You can't. You know why? Joe won't allow it. I think Joe said when they met with Joe and they said, "Look, we don't know how to tell you this, but we're going to use him 7, 8, 9 times a game." Joe said, "Can I have a minute?" And Joe walked out. And he came back and he said, "All right, look, I'll let you guys do that, but he cannot throw the ball ever. I'll sign off. I'll shake with you, but he can't throw the ball." So that.
But he can throw the ball to Lamar.
By the way, his brother can throw the ball. Tom Flacco. Towson is lighting people up.
They're in
beat
top-
the Citadel,
they're in the top
right?
They're in the top 20
We
again.
might have a Flacco thing coming pretty soon, and that would really be cool.
Save that for next week's bold
I
prediction.
might actually. That would be pretty cool. Flacco, and you go right into it. You can keep the jerseys and everything the same. Joe can retire, and his brother can come right in and play. That would be pretty cool.
Come on, man.
Come on, Tony. You said you got a lot of bold
I
predictions.
do have 4. John Brown. You mentioned him. He outdistanced Antonio Brown. I think he's going to have another big game. I think he goes for $125 against the Cleveland Browns.
He's making a lot of money.
Alex Collins. Alex Collins, the GOAT kind of, against the Steelers. I think he bounces back. It's his first 100-yard game against the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
And Tim Williams, a guy that's really the only time that Ben Roethlisberger got hit was twice. Tim Williams was the deliverer of those hits. I think he drops Baker Mayfield twice in Cleveland. He gets a little bit more PT this time around, and he'll drop Baker Mayfield for 2 sacks.
Okay.
And lastly,
This sounds like 37-0.
That's what I just said. I was waiting.
I've got the Ravens winning 27-16.
27-16.
With those other stats you put in there, though, I think you
Yeah.
might want to reevaluate.
Yeah, right. 57.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, Myles Garrett might do a thing or two
Right.
against Joe Flacco, upset the apple cart a little bit.
Right.
So
I think it's going down to the wire.
I don't. I'm thinking 34 to 13.
The league's insane, right?
It
Like
is
we would all
insane.
agree on one thing. We can talk about the penalties, this, that, the league, is it a touchdown, is it a catch, all that crazy stuff. The league from week to week is unbelievably nuts.
were you guys watching the Red Zone at all yesterday?
No.
I didn't know.
I'm watching the Red Zone, which, by the way, my wife hates that because she likes to watch one game. I said, well, honey, I'm flipping over when it was a commercial. So we're watching the Red Zone, and there's a lot of blowouts early in the day. And then the 1 o'clock games start to wind down. All these things are going into overtime. Boom, boom, boom. It was like
right.
it was really exciting
Right,
watching
right.
that channel at that particular time. So, and what's the guy's name? The Hanson, or the guy that hosts that show?
Yes, it is. Because he was a local guy for a while, right?
Yes,
he was
with
DC guy.
DC, yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
does a great job.
I know who you're talking about, right.
Always wondering when he goes to the bathroom.
It's just the league is, there's so much from week to week. There's just so much imbalance that you just never know. And it's funny, right? I mean, we joke about the gambling and the wagering, but it's why these guys in Vegas all have big houses and huge pools.
I mean, the
and
49ers
great cars.
the 49ers
you can't
almost
figure it out.
the biggest.
Right.
It was almost an upset.
They have
yesterday.
no quarterback.
Correct, and they almost win.
Almost win, and couldn't. I mean, it's just the league's crazy.
and they love it that way.
They've done the league.
We love it
tell
that way
you,
because our team's 3-1.
I keep telling you, my friend always says to me, he's like, you guys are all going to find this out in 5 years. There's going to be a huge breaking scandal story. You're all going to find out. There's a script, and you guys are all going to say, I can't believe I didn't figure it out. He says it, and I watch the games. Like the Cleveland-Oakland game, I watch it sometimes, and I'm like, how do you do that? How do you take the game away from them? And it's like when the old days when Saito would throw the salt in the guy's eye when the referees had his back turned.
Yeah.
Mr. Fuji would tap you out. Like, it's all set up.
And on that note, with Mr. Fuji,
There you go, right.
we're signing off for this week. We'll see you next week on the Primary Residential Mortgage Armchair Quarterback.